This is Pioneer Field Agronomist Scott Eversgerd with the weekly report on May 9th. A couple things going on last week, getting the most calls and kind of predict what will be happening this week. Corn emergence issues for those that have received the heavier rains on some of the newly planted corn. Definitely seeing some possible replant scenarios there. It's a little bit of cold weather injury on some of this corn, not wanting to come out of the ground, seeing everything from leaves unfurling under the ground to even the sprout trying to go the wrong way once in a while. So several things happening there. The big thing would be just to continue to evaluate those stands and see what we end up with. With the weather forecast for this week, it looks like probably won't be able to do much to those stands this week. So really what it's going to get to as we get into the latter half of May is making that decision on maybe a thinner stand of 20 or 22 or 24,000, leaving that versus replanting in latter May. So you just have to make that determination, and the big thing being the uniformity of that thinner stand. From a soybean standpoint, I did get quite a few beans stuck in the ground last week, seeing some of those emerge as well. Overall bean emergence seems to be pretty decent at this point. One thing, again, on a replant scenario on beans, a rough rule of thumb on a stand count is every day in May is worth about 100,000, or every day in May is worth about 2,000 seeds per acre. So if you're looking at May 1, saying I want a final stand of 100,000, compare that to the final stand on June 1, saying 150, 160,000. Every day in May is worth about 2,000. So as we get into the 10th, 15th, 20th of May, that's a rough rule of thumb you can use for that in determining what should be kept and maybe what should be replanted on soybeans. Also, as we get into the area that we have more beans being planted, realizing a lot of those beans now being sprayed with the PPO herbicides, and now with corn planting not done in some areas, we'll be switching sprayers back and forth to corn and beans. The big thing on clean out on these sprayers is if you're spraying soybean herbicides on Monday, you clean out, you switch to corn, you're probably, as long as you give her a good triple rinse, you're good for that day. Then on Tuesday morning, when you go to spray again, make sure you flush that boom before you start. We've seen the biggest issues when that sprayer sets overnight after a change in chemicals, after a change in crops. We've seen the biggest issues that next morning. So make sure you flush that boom before you start off spraying. And then finally on wheat, looks like most of the wheat did flower last week. So we did have a little bit better flowering period last week than maybe we had the last couple of years. So hopefully the scab infections will be a little lower than what we've seen in the last couple of years. We all know if we can keep the scab out, that definitely helps in keeping the vomitoxin levels low as well. So we'll just have to wait and see how the crop develops. So as always, if you have any questions, please contact your local Pioneer rep. Thanks.